super cold out, but I thought I'd film a walking video, sort of vlog style, if you will. Hopefully the sound quality is not too bad. I'm using my AirPods because, well, I don't have any other way of capturing decent footage because I don't normally do things on the run. But yeah, so I thought I'd do one anyways. And I thought I'd make it super interesting and do my book review pen video thing. My shoes are coming undone. Obviously, I'm not in my usual filming environment. I'm up in my cottage and I just decided to go for a walk. So 2 birds, 1 stone, right? So what did I read? I don't even remember what month this is now. November, for the month of November. Well, I've read 3 books for the month of November. The first, and I'll put a image here since I don't have it, is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So cold. And the second is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings, by J.R.R. Tolkien. Clearly. Wow, it is cold. I'm gonna have to make this one quick. But yeah, I read those 2. I've read the entire series before, like The Hobbit and all 3 Lord of the Rings, which is a bit of a misnomer to say because Lord of the Rings is actually supposed to be 1 book. But anyway, well, 1 print but subsequent books. That's besides the point. I've read it before. It was back in 2015. Ironically enough, when I was here. God, I love this place. It was also in winter, but it was January. I don't know why that's relevant. I just thought I'd throw that in there. I'm not used to this. I am Canadian, by the way. It's just, it's the beginning of the truly cold season. Can you hear the birds? Probably not, eh? Whatever. I'll slow my pace down. I'm a fast walker. I'll slow my pace down so hopefully I don't kill you with my out of breathness because, yeah, I'm out of shape. Anywho, I've read them before, back in 2015, and I thoroughly enjoy them. I watch the movies probably about twice a year, even though, you know, they're not completely accurate, but a lot of the stuff they left out, totally understand why. If you've watched the extended versions of the movies, they're a little bit more accurate. Obviously not totally still, but that said, at least watch them if you're not going to read them. I thoroughly enjoy them. Having been, 6.5, almost 7 years since I've read them last, I forgot so much. Like, so much. Because like I said, I watch the movies about twice a year because I love them. But I haven't read them in a really long time. So I forgot how much actually got left out of the movies. And how many things have changed and flipped around and all this kind of good stuff. So like The Hobbit, for example, there's no orcs. There's no orcs in that book. Well, okay, it's not that there are no orcs. Orcs exist, but they're not being chased. There's no like great orc versus Thor and Oakenshield. Like, that was completely made up. The dragon, like Smaug, obviously events happened differently in the book. There was much less of a battle with the dwarves versus Smaug. So none of the, like, you know, enveloping him in gold and all this kind of stuff. So there was a lot that got changed, especially with The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings is a little more accurate. Still tons and tons and tons of stuff that is different. But anyways, I digress. I highly recommend it. Ooh. The sun feels nice on my butt. I still highly recommend it. Check it out if you can. The mass market bound, so the ones with like the movie tie-in photos, like covers, are super cheap. Like, I can find them at my local bookstore for all of them for like a little under $20. It's not like the fanciest covers, copies, whatever, but it doesn't matter. Just pick them up and read them. The prose and like the actual pace of it, some people probably don't like. I mean, obviously it's not written in our time. I'm going to get back to that comment in a second with a third book that I read. That's a little bit different. Most people don't really like that style, and he does explain a lot. But it's less rambly than I actually remember it being, and I think that's because my reading style, my preferences, my reading comprehension, my ability, all this kind of stuff has increased since 2015. Because in 2015, I was just fresh out of school, and I stopped reading for a long time because when I was in school, I had to read so many things that I didn't want to. I was forced to read, and so I stopped reading for pleasure. So, I kind of took a few years off. So it's a lot less rambly actually now that I remember it, but I'm also much more into the lore of Lord of the Rings, the history behind it. Like, I have purchased the Silmarillion now. I've tried to read that once before, couldn't quite make it through, but I'm gonna give it an actual go and I think stick through it. And then I want to also buy the Unfinished Tales, and potentially get into the subsequent history of Middle Earth and all this kind of good stuff. So definitely feeling it this time around way more than last time. If you watched the movies, I am about to actually go in the woods now, so I think I will be slow so that you don't hear too much crunching. So yeah, if you want to, I highly recommend that you actually do it, because it's worth it. It is 100% worth it. I really, really, really like the books a lot, because I read The Hobbit and then Fellowship back to back, and then I took a break, and I just finished, actually not too long ago, the Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I guess I was feeling like a really olden time book experience. This one was written in the 1850s, and I almost DNR'd it. Like, just don't resuscitate, just done it. Nope, DNF, do not finish. But I didn't. I stuck through it. And it's not because I didn't like the story. The story has been done multiple times. It's been made into movies. It's, all whatever. It's fine and good. Basic plot of the story is a husband sends wife over from England to Massachusetts. I don't know how to say that properly, so if you're from there, I apologize. He sends her over ahead of him to sort of get settled and make their life in Boston, I guess, more hospitable for him when he arrives. Anywho, long story short, she messes around and has an affair and ends up getting pregnant, has a baby. The town is like super Puritan. It's basically just after like the Salem witch trials kind of environment, which Boston was like the place to go for that one. But yeah, so she gets caught, obviously, because she gets pregnant, and then gets ostracized, gets jailed, has a big scarlet A on her chest, and then gets sentenced to death. And then the story primarily is about her trying to essentially escape to Europe with the baby daddy, and her husband trying to figure out who the baby daddy is. So it's an interesting story. I like the story. I have seen adaptations of said story, but it's a really nice story. It's just, it was written in the 1850s. And the language is not difficult to understand because it's a simple story. It doesn't take 2 and 2 to figure it out, but it's so out there, like compared to the way that we speak now. It's super duper formal. Even when, they're just speaking to randos, like low life, low society people on the street, it's super formal. I'm going to cut to a clip actually of me reading you a short passage because I won't get copywritten on that one because it is out of copyright protection timeframes, but so that you understand what I'm actually talking about. So I almost didn't finish the book because I found it kind of almost unbearable and like, just, I don't know, I didn't enjoy reading it, which is a bummer because like I said, I like the story, but I just didn't enjoy reading it. I would recommend it if you want a challenge, if you want to push yourself to read something that clearly is written for a different audience. All right, as promised, I'm going to read you a passage from the Scarlet Letter, clearly not outside anymore, so that you can understand what I mean by like the old-timey language. We have a conversation between 2 strangers that are just in the crowd looking at her. One is like a poor guy, essentially, and then the other one is another guy that we don't know yet who it is. Then touching the shoulder of a townsman who stood next to him, he addressed him in a formal and courteous manner. I pray you, good sir, said he, who is this woman, and wherefore is she here set up to public shame? I don't know why I instantly go to that voice. I'm not going to keep doing it. You must needs be a stranger in this region, friend, answered the townsman, looking curiously at the questioner and his savage companion. Else you would surely have heard of Mistress Hester Prynne and her evil doings. She hath raised a great scandal, I promise you, in godly Master Dimmesdale's church. You say truly, replied the other. I am a stranger, and I have been a wanderer, sorely against my will. I have met with grievous mishaps by sea and land, and have been long held in bonds among the heathen folk to the southward, and am now brought hither to by this Indian, that's the language, to be redeemed out of my captivity. Will it please you, therefore, to tell me of Hester Prynne's, have I named her correctly, of this woman's offences, and what was brought to her yonder scaffold? So it just continues in things like that. So it's a good book, but you have to get used to the language, the prose, and it's difficult to get used to, essentially. It's not a super long book. It's only 221 pages, and that's including like an insert from the author and the publishing company. So yeah. The other book I was going to show you is the edition of the Lord of the Rings that I'm reading, is the newer illustrated ones by Alan Lee. So J.R.R. Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings. So this is the dust cover, which is absolutely beautiful. And there are full reviews of these actual editions online. I highly suggest that you check them out. I'm just going to take the dust cover off because they're super, super, super detailed, which is really awesome. I love the fact that there's like the maps on the inside of the cover there. I think that it's amazing that the page numbers and the titles are all in red. And the Hobbit version of this is green, not red. It's also, the first letter is in red as well. And there's loads and loads and loads of illustrations by Alan Lee throughout the book. And that's for all of them so far. Like I said, I'm right now, there you can see Gollum. So right now I'm reading The Two Towers. I've just started that one, so I'm only halfway through the second chapter. It's actually about 3 days later after I filmed the first half of this video before I did all the inserts here. And I'm actually also reading book 1 of the Wheel of Time series now. I'm about 250-ish pages in. The first book is like 800 and something. So I'm reading both at the same time. Spoilers. So those are the 3 that I read. I didn't read any nonfiction books this month. I just got too into Lord of the Rings and whatnot and didn't have time because those books are a bit consuming. I read the Scarlet Letter as like a light thing in between and then went, oh damn, what did I get myself into? So yeah, next month I'm going to continue to read Two Towers. I might do Two Towers and then do a few other books. And then in January, maybe finish Return of the King. Who knows? We'll see what I get into. But I do also want to start reading Malice by John Gwynne. If you can't tell already, I'm starting to get into the fantasy life now. But that's neither here nor there. That's the future. I can't predict what the future will bring. So that is what it is. As far as the pen and ink combo of what I was enjoying in November, I just looked at the sun and now all I see is a giant streak of the sun. Anyways, it was the Pilot Custom 823 fine nib, the smoke version, filled with KWZ Northern Twilight. That ink is a sleeper ink for me. I've had it for many years, but I never really used it because I just didn't care for it. But now all of a sudden I'm loving it, like just crazy loving it. And I've used it very often in the last like couple months actually. So much to the point where I've actually used like a third of the bottle now, which I can't buy the ink anymore. It's a Scriptus ink, but I'm loving it. And I love the vanilla smell. And I'm freezing, so I'm gonna put the camera away now. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If this is super annoying, I'll probably never do another vlog style again. Or if I do, maybe I just won't be walking around, who knows. Like, subscribe, all the things, you know, just the things that YouTubers say. And if you're still watching, I appreciate you. You're the reason why I make these videos. And as always, I'll see you next time.